Hey guys, how's it going? It is meal planning time. If you're new to my channel, this is what I do every week to keep our family on track and on budget. We currently have 8 kiddos in our house. My husband and I, we have 7 biological children, and right now we have 1 foster child with us. That is actually something, those numbers may or may not change here in the near future. We're going to see how that plays out. There's just a little sneak peek. I'm not really going to talk about it too much because that is for a separate video when things actually happen. But we'll see. But for anybody who's been following, yes, it is strictly a foster placement at this point. There is no adoption plan or anything else. There is actually a plan somewhere else. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. If you get the movie reference, leave that in the comment section down below. Anyhow, so I'm going to cover last week's meal plan, and then I'll go over what we have planned for this week. This is what I like to do to show how we kind of ebb and flow and change with things, do what we need to. And again, this is how we stay on track and on budget, trying to spend no more than $300 a week for our family of 10 and just making it all work. And guys, we don't live in a low cost of living area. In fact, food around here is not all that cheap. I don't know, something to do with access from major depots and things like that. So let's get to it. Last week we had the shepherd's pie bake. Now I mentioned last week in the meal planning video that I had actually already just made that. In fact, everybody liked it. I used Bisquick in the middle of all the shepherd's pie mix instead of mashed potatoes on the top because that's what we had on hand. And it was a hit. So then, where are we at here? Bean burritos. Now that did not happen because the Instant Pots were not available when I actually planned on using them. And a few things just kind of went crazy this week. And so it's something that I'll talk more here about in a minute. Now, French toast. I also realized as I was editing last week's video that I mentioned French toast and that I was going to talk about these scribbles. I actually apparently planned on having French toast so much that I wrote it on the list twice. It's also a mom moment. So we had that. It was a hit. Sean brought home a whole bunch of blueberry bread, which is amazing to make French toast with. It just works really well for it. And I think I have a little one attempting to come in. So we'll see here. Bisquick cheeseburger bake. Now that's something that one of our teenagers was going to make. She's been eyeballing a few different recipes in my Bisquick recipe book, which is something some of the kids love to do, and I love that. She never did get around to it, so that just didn't get made. And that's okay. I put it on there because she wanted to, but it just didn't happen. Quesadillas, however, though, those did happen. Then I also added shredded chicken. Now, if you watch all of my videos, so if you have subscribed to my channel and you hit that notification bell, you get notified every time I upload a video. Mondays and Tuesdays are pretty consistent. Throughout the rest of the week, though, it's hit or miss. If I upload recipes, I try to do it on Fridays. Doesn't always happen, and it had been a while since I uploaded one, but I did last week, guys. I make this crazy simple shredded chicken recipe in the crock pot. It is like 3 ingredients. You can even knock that down to 2 ingredients if you want to, because you don't have to add the crumbled bacon. That's an optional thing. Anyhow, I suggest you go over and you check out that video because yum. So it'll be it's from last Friday. It's also in my recipe playlist. I make a point to add those to my playlists. So that way it's really easy to access. But it was a bacon ranch chicken stuff. So yummy. And it was a hit. It got used in many, many things. The leftovers were fully enjoyed and nothing went to waste. And that does make a lot of leftovers too. So guys, use as much chicken as your family will actually use or what you want for the leftovers. Because a little bit goes a long ways with that stuff. You don't eat near as much as you would if you had like just a whole chicken breast in front of you. So moving on to this week. Now, I've got those bean burritos on here again. Now that's because I am out of refried beans in my freezer. So I need to make those up anyhow. When I make a fresh batch of beans, I usually just stick some in the fridge because the kids love to have bean burritos. That's why it's on the list, because I've got to get those made for the freezer anyhow. Tater tot casserole, because I've got the tater tots we still have not used. The temperatures are actually in the 60s for several days this week, so I figured why not. The shepherd's pie is on here again because that one was a hit. And guys, I've struggled a little bit to find things that our extra kiddo really enjoys. I really like to try to make sure that everybody has the most balanced meals that we can. Now, the meal itself may not be balanced, but we try to balance things throughout the day. And this is a kiddo who has a real sweet tooth, and we just don't do a lot of that in our house. But as an alternative is compensating with carbs everywhere they can. And so if I can make things like shepherd's pie where, yeah, you know what, it's got those mashed potatoes in it, but I do 50-50 between meat and veggies and everything else, and this kiddo will clean his plate for stuff like that. So, and now that I know that he likes the shepherd's pie, the tater tot casserole is going to be hit or miss. When he first joined us over the summer, I made that once. Not a fan of cheese, and it has cheese in it and on it. But we're working through that, and I want to try it again and see if he's doing better now that he is actually eating some cheese, because he's decided our cheese is good. Go figure. Whatever. The chicken tikka, that is, if you've been watching, for the last week or two, I've had that on the meal plan because I got the jars of tikka masala sauce at Costco back at the beginning of the month. And I really want to use that and see just how that's going to play out. So I'll have to try to remember to let you guys know how that works. And then we've got griddle cakes and hot dogs with mac and cheese. I have to have a couple of simple meals on here because, guys, it's guaranteed that there's going to be days I do not feel like making anything. And griddle cakes is something that one of our teenagers typically makes. The mac and cheese with hot dogs, any of the teenagers can make. My husband will make, I make. It just depends, and it's simple. So all of that is really easy. And I have one thing down here that I will, actually I'll just talk about that next week. So if you could read it, there you go. If you noticed, I'm double counting because I forgot to apparently, we have 6 items. I think last week, I'm going to double check here, I had 5 written down. I wrote down an extra one. 2 of those 5 didn't get made. So, you know, there are 4 actual meals in that sense that were made. But we're gonna see, especially with winter getting closer and closer. Thankfully, we're not moving into it just yet, but fall is definitely here. So, you know, doing a little bit more cooking and baking and things. I do what I can throughout the summer, but it gets hot here. You know, we get cold in the winter and we get hot in the summer. We definitely feel both of those seasons, spring, fall. Depends on the weather's mood, whether or not we actually get to experience them or if it's sporadic. We might get a day or 2 of it and then bounce back to another season. It is what it is in that sense, but that's okay because there's a lot of other perks of being here. And yeah, I don't know what else we're going to do. I'm probably going to do some other baking and stuff this coming week. I say this, I've got a lot of big plans, but guys, I'm hurting. I do not know what I did to my collarbone. I've gone to the chiropractor who, after doing some small rotations, pretty much said, yeah, you need to go to the orthopedic doctor. Apparently things are not moving the way they should and maybe moving 2 separate directions. It was a little concerning when he asked me if I could feel the bone moving in 2 different directions and almost as if it's like rotating against itself. It's a little concerning. Somebody asked you that. I knew I was in pain. I just didn't know it was like that. You'd also think I'd know if I had broken my collarbone, but I don't know. So this is apparently mom life for me. I get so busy that I don't even know how I would have done it when, well, I have a general idea of when, like a week of when it would have happened. I just don't know exactly when. And yeah, so now I just gotta wait until I can get in and get that taken care of. Figure out what exactly is going on in there. So we'll see. I'm hoping to get all of these made, but because I am hurting a little bit, there's a chance a couple of those baked meals might not happen because it's kind of labor intensive, and that giant Polish pottery dish that I like to use is kind of heavy when it's fully loaded. Not as easy to lift in and out of the oven when you don't want to move your arm very much. So there is this week's meal plan. That is how we plan on utilizing both stuff from the grocery haul as well as stuff that we already had on hand, whether it's from our pantry or our freezers. That's how I like to run a lot of this stuff. It's also why you guys, I've had one person actually, it's been a little while though, comment on some of the food that we do get. We buy a lot of fruit. You don't see a lot of vegetables. That's because the way I typically use them in meals, guys, I can't stand produce going bad because it's wasted money. And in the climate that we're in, it's so dry here. And especially in the summer, it gets so hot and things just get funky. So when it comes to vegetables, it's actually a lot easier to buy frozen. And so we've got quite the stash of frozen vegetables in the freezer. There's a couple of things. I'm going to laugh at this. There's a couple of things we got from our garden. Last year we got a bunch of spaghetti squash and zucchini and stuff from some friends. We were going to again this year. Chain of events, that just didn't happen. We had 2 sad little spaghetti squash come out of our own garden this year. And we got a couple of tomatoes that were edible. There were a bunch of others I was waiting to ripen up. And apparently the 3 days we were gone, the deer had a heyday with them because there was no evidence that they ever existed when we got back. It happens. But that's why you don't see a lot of vegetables in the hauls. There are certain things I will only buy fresh though, like the Brussels sprouts, carrots. We do buy frozen carrots though too. But I like to use fresh carrots and celery and onions. You know, and I gotta say too, at Sam's Club, the vegetable selection is kind of slim in that sense. Way more fruit than vegetables. And I have to go to Safeway to get a lot of the stuff that we would actually use. So I think during the winter, you'll probably see me get more of that, especially once I get back to doing more of the grocery shopping. That's the other hard part is I look for what's actually in season and looking good. Sean doesn't always know what to look for in that sense. So it's rather than trying to explain it or doing the grocery shopping over the phone, which is miserable because he's attempting to describe things to me and it just doesn't work. So that's where that's going to play out. Because here this fall, I will probably start watching for cabbages and things like that because we love to do cabbage soup and, roasted cabbage. If you guys have never tried that, I need to check and see if I've done a video on that one. And even if I have, maybe I'll have to do an updated one. I don't know. We like roasted cabbage and kale chips. And yes, my kids like healthy foods. It is what it is. So, I don't know. I've rabbit trailed off my meal plan. Anyhow, I hope that you guys are having a blessed day. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss everything else coming up next. And I'll see you in the next one.